What? Oh no. All right, again, thank you all for being here. I am Mrs. Cox. I am the IB coordinator. I coordinate both of our programs, the MYP or Middle Years program, as well as the DP Diploma program. We also have Ms. Salazar here with us this evening. Just letting somebody in from the waiting room. I'm going to turn my camera off while we go through the presentation, and then I will hop back on camera at the end. As we mentioned, you can post your questions in the chat. If we can't get to them through the presentation, then we'll try to capture the questions all at the end. So this session tonight is about our diploma program, the IB program for our 11th and 12th grade students that we offer at HP. So we do offer 2 programs of the International Baccalaureate Organization at Harrison Prep. We have the Middle Years program, and that is a program that our students in the grades 6 through 10 are in. And then our diploma program that we're going to speak to tonight is for our 11th and 12th grade students. There are lots of similarities between all of the IB programs. You'll notice that the learner is the central focus. Other similarities include the importance of service, and that our students in both programs are exposed to all of the subject areas with the goal of developing strong and smart citizens. So some famous, what we call full IB diploma graduates. You can see a couple of them there. We got Ken Jennings, got an actress, musicians, prime minister there at the bottom. And as I mentioned, all of our HP students participate in our IB programs. Additionally, you guys that are staying and entering from the middle years, entering into the diploma program are some of our awesome potential future HP graduates, as well as those that graduated before you. Some benefits of the diploma program experience. One is that you benefit from a cohort experience. It's something that builds a strong community in our 11th grade and our 12th grade students. It's a little bit of a smaller learning community. Definitely when you compare the size of our DP students to our MYP grade 6, it's a much smaller community. It's also a group of students with similar goals. So typically that goal is college readiness, even if the students decide to pursue workforce or military aspirations after high school. It's about collaboration and not competition, although sometimes we do see some healthy competition between students. It's also a community with your teachers, and our teachers at HP are very devoted to their students and helping those students meet their goals. And successful completion of the DP experience does have some college credit opportunities, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of these benefits throughout tonight's presentation. Overall, the DP provides you with a well-rounded schedule, but it also is a challenge. It includes a couple of additional kind of nuances. We have 2 ways that students participate in the diploma program at HP. One is a full, what we call a full diploma candidate, and the other is a course candidate. For our students entering into 11th grade, the way that we schedule students as 11th graders, all of them will enter as full diploma candidates. And sometimes in the second year and senior year, we might change that based on conversations with students and families to a course student. So you can see there on the screen, we have DP candidate, which is what I refer to as the full on one side and then the course on the other. It's important to note that both of those pathways, students graduate from the Clover Park School District with a Harrison Prep diploma. And then the full diploma candidate also has the possibility of earning the IB diploma. And the reason why I say possibly earning is that scores for those IB diplomas are released in July. So that is after they have graduated from high school. So they graduate in June usually from the Harrison Prep Clover Park School District pathway, and then they will find out after that graduation if they've earned the IB diploma. Both full and partial candidates take 6 classes, 6 DP classes. And a full candidate additionally completes creativity, activity, and service experiences. We'll talk about those in a little bit as well. A full candidate writes an extended essay. Full candidates also participate in what we call theory of knowledge class. And they can earn college credit for earning the full diploma, as well as the possibility of earning college credit for those 6 subject areas. A course student still is going to take that full DP course load, but they may not participate in the exams in the senior year for some of those courses. We do register course candidates for a minimum of 4 courses, and typically that's kind of the 4 traditional core subjects, so English literature, history, a science course, and a math. Students on the course pathway will also be expected to complete some service learning experiences. That's part of the state graduation requirement. So whereas the full candidate does CAS, the course candidate is really just doing the service component. A course candidate is also expected to take the TOK class as an elective, so that way they carry a full schedule. And in that TOK class, where the full candidate does an EE, the course candidate completes a college level research paper. So it's kind of similar. Our course candidates are also going to be enrolled, just like the full candidates, and just like all HP students, in a Spanish course in junior and senior year. And then course candidates can earn college credit based on the exam scores. I mentioned that we usually register our course candidates for 4 subject areas. So if they take the literature exam and they pass the literature exam in senior year, then they can earn college credit for that particular course. So both pathways offer options to earn college credit. It's that one, the full candidate tends to have more credit available to earn versus the course candidate. Another distinction that IB offers in the courses is what we call the SL or HL courses. So SL stands for standard level, and HL stands for higher level. Both of those courses are taught over 2 years. IB distinguishes those courses based on a minimum requirement of kind of seat time or instructional time for that course. Our SL courses kind of exceed that 150 hours because we do require students to participate across the 2 years. And then our higher level is right at about that 240 to 250 hours over the 2 years. And some of our courses are SL only, so chemistry and environmental systems and societies. Music is also an SL only course. And then for higher level, we have a couple that are always HL. Oh yeah, HL. That's literature, history, film, and visual arts. And then our math and Spanish courses, students can decide to register for an exam at either the SL or the HL pathway, depending on their comfort, their their challenge that they'd like to undertake, and also with parent and teacher input for those math and Spanish courses. For a full candidate, IB does require that there is a 3-3 split between SL and HL. They will also allow you to take 4 HLs and then 2 SLs, but never 4 SLs for a full candidate. There are no requirements in terms of that combination for course candidates, just for the higher level candidates. A couple of misconceptions that we like to just kind of get those out of the way. One, we hear when we're walking the halls and we're talking with students, oh, DP is only for those really smart kids. And we want you to know that that's you. You are those smart kids. If you've been at HP for a year or more, you've already been exposed to the challenge, the rigor, and the expectations of an IB program. And if you've had any measure of success throughout the middle years program, we believe you are the ideal candidate for the diploma program. We also have some similar philosophies in both of those programs, the MYP and the DP. So those learner profile traits, those skills that we model, and we build capacity for each of those traits. We also have your teachers and HP staff to support you. So it's not something that is too difficult. We believe you are all capable, and with enough support, you can find success. Misconception 2, I can't take some special electives if I want to earn the full DP. This is a reality, and this is a reality that we mentioned earlier this year, before 10th graders started to make their course requests for next year. Something that you need to realize is that you can't do it all. We only have so many classes and a schedule that we can offer. So sometimes you do have to make those difficult choices. And our goal for you is to graduate high school in 4 years. So that might require some scheduling challenges if you have not taken any type of CTE or PE or health, especially if you're entering Harrison Prep in 10th or 11th grade. So we do want you to really prioritize those interests, and sometimes it is a tough decision. So you can't take Chem and ESS. You can't take, we want you to take one of the science options. So sometimes that's a little bit hard for our very science-minded and science-eager students, but you have to make that tough choice. Misconception number 3 says you will not have a life if you do the full DP. That's false. One of the learner profile traits is balance. That's something that we value at HP, and it's definitely a tenet that the IB values. Teachers at HP and staff understand that there are a lot of demands on the times of our students, especially our upper grade 11th and 12th grade students. So they do work together to align assessments over the course of the 2 years of the diploma program to help lessen that stress. We also, those core components I mentioned when we talked about the full candidates, the EE, the TOK, and CAS, and their kind of counterparts for our course candidates. We support students in completing those throughout the TOK class, so that theory of knowledge course, with supervisors and instructional time, so that students can accomplish the coursework for those core components while in the building as well. I don't see any questions in the chat. I'm trying to be mindful and not race through my points here. So I will take a quick second if you've got any questions in the chat.
Yeah, Bella, what's your question?
Will there be any opportunities for students to fulfill any of those classes or requirements over the summer or over summers at any time?
So when we're going to talk here in just a minute about the core components, and the CAS is that's the creativity, activity, and service. Those components can start the first day of junior year. And then they can complete that through junior year, as well as that summer between junior and senior year. Additionally, the extended essay or the EE, we do get students started on that in the spring of junior year. They're able to work on that over the summer. And then when they come back in September, they'll have time to work on that. And then they submit it in usually December of the senior year. In terms of classwork, sometimes the teachers might assign some reading. And I'm not sure if, I have not heard of any readings being provided for our 10th graders entering into the diploma program. And really just encouraging students as they, that summer, this summer that they have before entering the diploma program, enjoy that time and that importance of balance and physical activity before they hit the road running when they come back in junior year. I also see a question there about the course candidates and earning credit. So course candidates also take the exams in the senior year. They just take less exams. Typically they're taking 4 or 3 instead of 6.
And then also to clarify, for the course students, they still do need to sit and pass those exams in order to get the college credit. But an additional benefit, regardless of if you're a course candidate or a diploma candidate, is that the IB distinction on a transcript, so the fact that they took IB math or that they took IB Spanish, is also valuable in applying to colleges because those courses are generally ranked as more rigorous and competitive compared to AP classes or general classes or honors classes. So there's both the benefit when they're applying to colleges, and then after they get into colleges, whatever exams they did pass, they will get credit for those classes similar to AP. And then in terms of, which exams they take and which ones they pass and how that will translate into credit in their colleges, that's something that we help seniors with as they're going through their applications. Is we try and figure out what colleges are they interested in, and then how does that college translate IB exams into credit so that they can make the best choice for them to get the most kind of bang for their buck from the exams that they're going to take.
And we'll go over here in a few minutes. One of the slides does kind of talk about the assessments and how do you earn the IB diploma. So we'll talk about that with a little bit more detail in just a bit. And I'm not sure, Mrs. Reed, did you have an additional question? I still see your hand up.
Yes, earlier you said that the course students may not take the test, but they do need to take the test?
They take the test for a minimum of 3 to 4 subject areas.
But they're not barred from taking the test, right? Oh.
Yeah, so even like we've had students that are on that course pathway, they still take all 6 exams for all of their subject areas, but they don't complete those other core components that we're going to talk about in terms of submitting those core components to IB. Instead, they do kind of a modified core to meet the graduation requirements.
Thank you.
Yep. And maybe as we go through some of this additional information, it will kind of get a little bit more clarity around that. So next is around the core components. So TOK stands for Theory of Knowledge. And we offer the TOK class across the entire DP program. So students take it in junior year as well as in senior year with different instructors for those years. It is a discussion-based class where kids explore, or students explore, how we know the things we think we know. In the TOK class, there are kind of 2 Assessment components for the IB. One is an exhibition, and they typically do the exhibition in junior year. And then the second IB component for TOK is a TOK essay, and they do that in senior year. IB releases 6 prompts, and students get to pick a prompt and respond to the prompt using their knowledge from the TOK class, and then that gets submitted in senior year as well. Exhibitions focus on another type of prompt and include real life items and scenarios that the student explores. And I had just a couple of examples. So we had some students this year do exhibitions on the unknowable. And is there such thing as the unknowable? And they looked at dinosaurs and consciousness as how do you know that that exists. They also talked about who owns knowledge, and that the idea of, do I own the knowledge if I read a book? If it's produced by knowledge from someone else? And so kind of interesting, kind of deep thought-based exhibitions. And then the essay is typically a knowledge-based prompt, kind of gets students to think about what they know and how that knowledge is gained and presented. It tends to be one of the classes that we often hear students say is their favorite. It also is one of those courses that I encourage students, like, this helps you win arguments. It's really important. But you can't use those powers against your parents. You got to use them for good. Next is CAS, which is creativity, activity, and service. CAS starts the very first day of junior year and carries on through till about the middle of May of senior year. CAS is an opportunity for students to produce experiences and reflections. And often these are on things that students may already be doing. So non-DP things like art. So students that like to be creative already may have experiences that they can produce a reflection on, and that would be part of their creativity portfolio. Music, sports, volunteering, community service, school-based opportunities that maybe if the student's in leadership, those experiences of service and leadership can count towards their CAS portfolio. It can also be experiences outside of school. So if they've already participated in maybe they're doing athletics, they could count that for their physical activity. We do have, I found this on the web. Oh, sorry, my watch. It's an opportunity for students to stretch themselves in those areas: creativity, activity, and service. And we kind of encourage students to do about, starting in junior year, 1 to 2 or 3 hours a month towards creativity, activity, and service. Doesn't have to be grand service experiences where they're going out to a community event. It can be something that they do on their own, whether that's drawing. We have a lot of students knitting or doing beadwork, crocheting, painting murals. I mean, it can be a wide range of experiences. They document their CAS experiences on ManageBack. I know the 10th graders are familiar with ManageBack because they did a lot of their personal project work on ManageBack this year. And as they get transitioned to the diploma program part of ManageBack, there are sections for them to enter CAS experiences. And in the TOK class with Mrs. Lobrecht in the beginning of junior year, she helps set their portfolio up, and she also monitors their progress on their CAS experiences and makes sure they have a portfolio that's well-rounded and shows their involvement across the full 18 months of the diploma program and really guides them through that. The third component of the core is the extended essay, or the EE. And this is a college level research and writing opportunity. It's kind of similar in the regards that the capstone for the middle years program was the personal project, and that we encourage students to pick a topic that they were personally interested in. It's the same with the EE. It's kind of an opportunity for students to really identify something that they're interested in and do some college level research and writing. They do this work with the supervision of the TOK teacher in the second year or second semester of junior year, who gets them started and assigns them a staff mentor. And then it also continues through the first semester of senior year. So while it is a 4,000 word essay, that's the maximum word count for this essay. It's something that is supported through one-on-one reflection sessions with the student and their subject area teacher. So I am a history teacher, and I also supervise a few students each year that are writing their EE in the history subject. Lots of ongoing support. In some cases, for completion and a passing score on the EE, students at some universities can even receive composition credit for just this part of the core component. All right, I'll give so we kind of went through the core components kind of quickly. And those core components, so who grades the EE? That's a great question. The supervisor of that student. So they have kind of two supervisors. They have the TOK teacher, who gets them started to help them write a research question, identify a subject they're interested in. And then once that student has their subject and topic identified, they get a staff supervisor that does their reflections, looks at their drafts and gives them feedback. And that staff supervisor is also the person that grades the EE. And as I mentioned, these core components are part of the full diploma candidate pathway, but they are also similar components that we have our course candidates complete as well, so that all of our students have the challenge and the skills developed to do that college level research and writing. So a course candidate might do a similar research paper, maybe not as extensive as the EE. The course candidates also do service to meet the Washington State graduation requirement for community service hours. And then our course candidates are also in the TOK class, and that counts as an elective course for them, and they'd still have the opportunity to learn knowledge and skills there as well. Any additional questions on the core? So that question about grading the EE kind of lends itself really well to this next section. And so for the core components, that EE is graded by an HP staff teacher. The CAS experiences, while a student might have, say the student does athletics and they want to have their coach count, verify that yes, this student's participated in this sport at these dates and times. HP, Mrs. Lobrecht, our CAS supervisor, she is still the one that verifies to IB that the student has completed the CAS expectations. And then for TOK, the exhibition is graded by the HP TOK teacher, and the TOK essay is scored in-house. Mr. Nelson has been that teacher on record for that semester where they do the TOK essay. So he'll give students feedback on one draft, and then students make those changes based on his feedback, and then it gets sent to IB, and an international examiner will give the final grade for that TOK essay. So with earning the diploma, we will talk about kind of how things are scored, how do you earn the points, what are the point earning opportunities, and then what's the value of earning that credit after graduation. All right, next slide, please, Ms. Salazar. So in the assessment model, there are external and internal assessments. And this is referring to the coursework that's required for that subject area by the IB. So each subject area has a slightly different model, but all of them have external and internal components. So about 65 to 80% of an overall IB DP score comes from externally assessed material. That's mainly the exams that they take in senior year. It could also include the English essay and portfolio projects. And these external items, typically the student completes it, can get some feedback from the HP teacher, they make their changes, and then it is scored by an international examiner. The internal assessments, this is about 20 to 35% of a student's DP score. And these materials include things like the Spanish oral or the English individual oral. Also includes labs, portfolios, research papers. And these internal assessments are assessed by the teacher, the HP teacher, using an IB rubric. And then those scores that the teacher gave are sent to IB, and then IB moderates that score. And that means that they look at the score distribution and then they ask for a sample, and then we would send those students' work and into IB to verify that everything is graded according to the IB standard. And those moderated papers and those internal assessments, all of those final pieces are typically due to IB in April of the second year. So external means that somebody outside of HP will be scoring it. Internal means that your HP teacher will be scoring it. All right, so when we talk about earning the IB diploma and we talk about these assessments, this is the assessment model. So in DP, we refer to our subjects as group. So you can see there are 6 groups. Group 1 is language A, that is literature. And you can see there are kind of 4 assessment components. There's paper 1 and paper 2. Those are external exams in the second year, so senior year. There's the HL essay, which is also an external component, and the individual oral, which students do in junior year, and that is an internal component. You can see typically it's called paper 1. If it's called a paper, that means it's an external exam taken in year 2. And anything called an IA is an internal assessment, whether that's a lab or it is like the art exhibition that students do in visual arts. So you can see the 6 subject groups. Group 1 is literature. Group 2 is Spanish B, meaning that it's typically a foreign language that students have acquired. Group 3 is history. And I do see the question, yes, we will be sending out the PowerPoint with the recorded video on Tuesday. And then group 4 is science, and students have already selected their preference for chemistry or environmental systems and society. And then math. Students have made math course requests and teachers will review and place students accordingly. There's math applications or math analysis. And then lastly, group 6 is the arts, and there are 3 options that students were given the opportunity to submit their preferences. There's visual arts, film, or music. And so students, that's what I talked about, making those sometimes tough choices. It's hard to be able to do all 3 of those arts options, so you do kind of have to narrow it down to 1. When we talk about earning the IB diploma, it's about points. So all of those subject areas at the end of exams, at the end of senior year, earn a score from 1 to 7 based on those percentage points for each of those assessment components. So they get a score for each of those assessment components. That number then is on a mark band of grade boundaries for those total points that translate into a 1 through 7 mark. And so there's 45 points total of possible points in earning an IB diploma. That includes all of the 6 subject areas having up to a 7, as well as 3 additional points. There's kind of a matrix for your EE score and your TOK scores that you can earn up to 3 additional points. So 45 total, and in order to earn the IB diploma, you have to have a total score of 24 points out of the 45 possible. And let me see. Yeah, Ms. Salazar, would you go on to the next slide? There we go. So exams, like I said, each of those have a total possible points out of 7. And when we talk about, that's a great question, that is 1 point equivalent to 1 college credit. So in Washington State and in a few other states, including Oregon, there are state policies, state laws that actually convert and make sure that students in an IB program receive college credit for anything 4 or higher. So in those subject areas, any score 4, 5, 6, or 7, regardless of if it's an HL, a higher level, or an SL or standard level course, earns college credit. So going back to that difference between full and partial candidates, a full candidate can earn credit for all of those subject areas, as well as additional elective credits for earning the IB diploma. A course candidate will only earn subject credit based on the exams or the subjects that they score a 4 or higher on. So that's what I was mentioning earlier. Full candidates have more credit, college earning credit opportunities than course candidates because they get the subject as well as additional what they call general graduation elective requirements. I believe it's kind of a term that they use. So it's not a 1-to-1, so you have to have a 4 or higher score in order to earn college credit. But it is based on that subject area. So if you pass history, you're going to get history credit, not just general elective credit. Additionally, benefits of being an IB candidate, whether you're full or partial, is you can see here I have some statistics around UW's acceptance rate. This is from an article called Crimson Education Report, and UW at the time of this publication, I believe was 2018, they had a 45% acceptance rate for those applied. And if you were an IB diploma student, you had an increased chance of admissions to 63%. Admissions offices, they do look for students that challenge themselves. They do know and recognize, not only in Washington and in the US, but internationally, IB is recognized and there's an understanding. They know what IB is. They know that it's a challenging, rigorous program. And then when students are in their senior year, they'll be exposed to something called the Common App. It is a common application for students to apply for admissions to multiple universities. And on the Common App, they actually have now a spot for students to designate if they are an IB candidate. That's not something that they have if you are an AP or Running Start candidate. So they do recognize and want to honor the IB students for participating in a challenging educational program. So I've talked a lot. The next opportunity is for some of our current IB students to kind of share their success tips and share their experience so far. So I do see, Sherlyn, if you would like to unmute yourself, then you can share your input.
Okay, awesome. Hi, I would say some tips that I have when it comes to regarding the like IAs and doing all of that is that I like just first want to start off with like it is intimidating at first when you first get into like junior year, because the first IA that gets introduced to you is your math IA. And I don't know, you're kind of like freaking out because you're just like, I've never done this before. Like you're just scared because you feel like you're going to fail. But honestly, just like take it one step at a time. That's like for any of your IAs in general. That's like my one like major tip is just break it down into small sections and don't look at it like the large picture of like the large, huge assignment that it is. Just like take it by little steps. And if you have like, they will give you examples which are like beyond helpful. Do not base your assignments off of that, but like do take it as like the pathway. Like this is what I'm kind of like aiming for. And sorry, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I would say that it's as like intimidating and as like sometimes like mentally draining it is, because it is a large assignment. It definitely does help you grow because like when you submit like your rough draft and you receive feedback, like you know what to fix, which is like beyond helpful. But sadly you can only do that once, but it is extremely helpful. And it definitely helps you grow like as a student, because then like they point out a flaw and then you're just like, then I don't know, it kind of just like sticks with you because you're just like, oh, I could do this to like push it from being this, like from being a C to a B. And yeah, and like you just like keep it like mentally, like it just mentally sticks with you. So on like future assignments, it's kind of like follows you. And like each IA that you do, because first you'll do your math and then your TOK and all that, it'll like help you improve with each one. And yeah, and like the tools I used to like acquire success in doing my IAs was definitely following the like examples and kind of like having that be like what I'm aiming for. But then also having a teacher, because they're there to obviously help you. So if like you have any questions or need like clarification, they are extremely helpful when it comes to that. And how I would like successfully just like take it on is, like I said in the beginning, break it down into smaller steps, because if you look at it largely, you feel so unmotivated to do it. But that's what's actually been helping me lately, getting through my EE, because it's huge and it intimidates me. But breaking it down to small steps with which Mr. Nelson is the one that's in charge of it. He is amazing at doing that. And I'm like currently about to start writing my rough draft, and I am so excited, especially because I picked a topic that I love, and that's like the most important thing, is especially for your history IA, you also get to pick your own personal topic, and with your math IA and your EE exhibition, you get to pick your own topics, and the like key to sticking to your assignment and like being successful on it is picking something that like personally interests you. Like for me, I picked something related to law because that's personally what I'm interested in when it came to my math IA, because it's statistics. And then like for my EE, for example, I'm doing theater because that's also something that interests me. So like do different things that personally interest you. Like don't always do the same topic, but definitely pick things that will like motivate you and make you excited to work on it, because that will also help you in the long run once you get like tired of like constantly working on it, because it is a long process, but it's the motivation of like you enjoying the topic that makes you want to like succeed and do the assignment. Yeah, that's all I have.
Oh, thank you. You brought up some really good points. You mentioned the importance of sticking with it and kind of chunking things into smaller manageable tasks. And that's something I know 10th graders did this year with their personal project. That's one of the ATLs with time management, self-management. Also the importance of asking questions when you're confused, or being in communication with your teachers for support. And then even in your sharing, the importance of having that positive attitude. And you definitely displayed that to us this evening as well. Thank you. And what about Brandon? Are you on, Brandon?
Yes, I'm on. My name is Brandon Elliott. I'm a junior, and this is my first year in the DP program. I've been going to HP since 6th grade. And yeah, just being in DP the first year, I just want to say DP isn't hard, but it requires you to adapt. And when I say adapt, it requires you to adapt quickly to the rubrics and the new level of expectations you're expected to meet. I recall from earlier this year when all my classmates had our first essay in English class. It was rough. Kids who were getting A's on essays all throughout the MYP program were getting B's and C's in some circumstances, but they were able to adapt by working with the teachers and really putting in the work to grow and challenge themselves in that class. And now I feel like everyone's really rebuilt themselves up back on a higher level. And along the way, there was a lot of students who ended up leaving. I feel like the hardest part was the social aspect when students left. But if you stick with it, you will reap the benefits. And I'm starting to see that a lot of things from DP, like TOK, stuff we learn in our classes is just stuff that's applicable in everyday life that in some ways you wouldn't imagine. A success tip for IAs in particular, I just want to say use that class time. We're really fortunate, as I've heard. We usually didn't get as much class time for IAs in our EE, but now we have a lot of class time to do a lot of our assignments. And this recent TOK class, the second semester of your junior year, you kind of get a study hall if you're able to stay on top of your assignments. So utilizing ClassMind to its fullest, I really think that students can get what they need done. So that whole aspect of time management is really important. I think that DP also is really good for preparing students for the real world. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought now too. It's really good for preparing students for the real world because it encourages balance in one's life. And, I think it's really hard for us to point out on our own when we're not balanced. But with CAS, I feel like this is the only academic program that encourages that you do things like activity, service, and creativity outside of your academic pursuits. And that's truly an incredible thing. So taking advantage of that CAS to keep yourself in check and to grow not only academically, but in all realms of life is something that's truly beneficial with the DP program. And I think that's where you will see success, is if you see CAS more as a break than it really is an assignment, because then you'll be happier throughout the DP life. And then I think the last thing I want to say for success in the DP program is don't bite off more than you can chew with outside of school activities and different things. because I think sometimes I see students like get caught up in doing like a lot of things outside of the school, and then sometimes the schoolwork gets ignored and stuff. So just really being able to get down to earth and realize what you can handle as a student while putting your academics first is really the key to seeing success in the DP program. And I just want to commend you all for like making it this far, because really not a lot of people made it this far in my grade and stuff. And yeah, that's just like a really good thing to have, like that perseverance and motivation to keep going within this program. So thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you, Brandon. You also shared some really great pieces of wisdom there. The importance of that balance and kind of that boundary for prioritizing what you can and cannot do. We talked about that kind of in those misconceptions, and the importance of understanding we can't do it all, and using those opportunities, whether it's time in class to work on things, or it's time to devote to physical activity as a CAS experience. It's really important to keep that in mind. If you would like to go to the next. I feel like we kind of covered that. I appreciate both of our current students sharing their input. Additional resources, there's an HP Corner on the IB webpage. I try to put up some kind of info packets around DP Year 1, DP Year 2. IBO, the IB's website, also has some resources on benefits. They have a lot of research on the benefits of IB, MYP, and DP in kind of that real life application in terms of knowledge that they're gaining, skills that they're gaining, as well as the benefits to college and university admissions and college and university readiness and completion in 4 years. Other resources at HP are me. I'm the IB coordinator. Mr. Ramos is the DP and MYP 910, so the high school counselor. And your DP teachers are also a very supportive community. So that's kind of our formal presentation. We have a few minutes. If there are questions, we can take a few questions here now. In teacher school, they tell us to wait, wait time. So I'll still wait a few more minutes for people that might need to kind of compose their question in their head or type it out. And if you don't have questions, feel free to leave the session, and then we'll wait a little bit longer. Thank you, Brandon. Brandon did say current sophomores, if you have questions that come up, you can definitely ask him in person at school. All right, well, thank you all for joining us, and feel free to reach out to teachers or staff if you do have questions. And as we mentioned earlier, we will try to get this recording and PowerPoint and some additional info sheets to you guys when we return from the Memorial break.
Thank you all for coming. Have a great night.